It's time for another installment of the Reserve List Top 10. These are the hottest selling cards on the Reserve List this week from June 1st to the 8th of 2024. So if you're a Magic the Gathering fan, if you like the Reserve List and you want to know what cards are selling, you have come to the right place, you're in the right corner, and this video is going to give you all the information that you need to know. Hey guys, welcome back. MTG Moxman here. Thanks a lot for stopping by the channel and checking out the content today as we take another look at the Reserve List and of course a top 10 video about the hottest selling cards on the Reserve List. A reminder, if you enjoyed today's content, to like and subscribe to the channel. I have a TCG Player affiliate link found in the description. If you're shopping there, use my link please. It helps the channel out. Let's start out with the number 10 card this week. Now number 10 is going to be Tundra from Revised Edition. As with most of the dual lands from Revised, it has a massive print run, and there's nothing shy about how many copies exist in the Aether world of the Reserve List. But let's face it, these cards are still expensive, they're still hard to come by, and there's less on the market than there used to be, which means players are holding on to their collections a lot longer, or maybe copies are just getting lost in time. This thing here, you gotta take a look. You got to remember that this thing says you can add either white or blue to your mana pool. It counts as both an island and a plains and is affected by spells that affect both. If a spell destroys one of these lands, it destroys the other as well. It's kind of crazy to think about how they worded these things back in the day. But for $488 a copy near mint, trust me, go looking for a heavily played copy if you intend on using it. You'll save yourself a lot of money. Now, our number 9 card this week comes again from Revised, and this one is not as much of a shock as seeing Tundra on again, and that is Wheel of Fortune. This thing's lost a little bit of ground this week. We've lost about $14 off of that $315 mark, coming in at about $300. Well, the 38 sales is still $11,400 of total sales volume, and that average price of $300, it seems really steep to a lot of players, but understanding that you can find these things moderate to heavily played. People have got trade-in and store credit. But the thing you can't take away from a card like Wheel of Fortune is that after you have one, you're not getting rid of it. After players seem to buy this card, they hold on to it a lot longer, and that is starting to show in the numbers. It's starting to show in the value and how many available copies are out there from all the various editions. So keep that in mind, that if you're going to sell this card later, this is one you want to double check on yourself, because the price does seem to stand the test of time, and it may go up a lot higher than what it is right now. Our number 8 card this week. Now, this is Winding Canyons. I've mentioned it a few times from Weatherlight over the years, and of course, it's at a very attractive price point. The 56 copies, though, that have sold for $19.06 on average, that's only $1,000. $1,000 is not a big investment in Reserve List cards. That's like 10 Shield or the Apocalypse, or 56 of this card. The point is, it's available, it's cheap, and what does this card do that makes it even have any value at all, or any potential value that a player needs to know about? It's what it does as a land. It doesn't come into play tapped. You can tap it for colorless, but you can also tap it and 2 generic. And it says, until end of turn, you may play creature cards whenever you could play instants. That means all your creatures gain flash. In a commander game, that's kind of an important thing to note. And although this card wasn't very flexible when we were younger, it definitely makes a lot of sense now, playing a format like Commander, to have 1 or 2 of copies of this just kind of hanging around the old binder, just in case. Now, our next card. This is Lotus Veil, and this makes perfect sense because of Commander Horizons 3. Let's not forget that all those new Eldrazi flowing around have got cards like this really hitting the head and making people want to really go badly. This thing's got 59 sales this week, which is $1,768.82, but it's seen a big increase of around 10 to 20% in the last couple of days. Now, at $29.98 per copy. This thing is a far cry from the old highs, but it still makes it a very decent card because of what it can do. When the Lotus Veil comes into play, sacrifice 2 untapped lands or bury the Lotus Veil, and it actually taps for 1 color, but it gives you 3 of it. So you can get that 3 mana you need, you can jack yourself up right away, and you can go back and get your other lands. The real bonus to this card is it doesn't come into play tapped. So there's no mana drawback in the terms. You don't have to wait a turn to get it going. And let's face it, you may be able to find ways to untap this more than once per turn, which means you can really jack up that mana supply pretty significantly when you're looking around for it. I can see why it made the list. It's kind of underrated right now. All right, our next card. As we continue down, this one's a bit of a stymie, okay? I just want to mention it that I've looked into this card to see what's going on. It's got 61 sales for Griffin Canyon. That's only $394.06. There's lots of synergy cards that go with this. Things like Changeling. There's a whole bunch of cards that can make creature types or make every card a certain creature type, including Griffins, which allows you to untap that target land, that target creature, that target thing again. And this is something you need to know about, because being able to untap it and give it a +1/+1 is kind of disgusting, especially if you're tapping something like a land for mana, but the land allows it to become any creature type, or it's all creature types at the same time. Tap it for mana, untap it, use it as a Griffin creature thing, and then go beat somebody down. It's kind of nice. Or just untap it twice for mana. Whatever you want to do. It also doesn't have a drawback, and it's super cheap right now. Metalworker is still hanging in there, coming in at a total spot of number 5. It isn't really moving much, but it's got 69 sales. This thing had $8,625 in sales volume. That $125 mark hasn't moved. I know it's on a few wish lists. I know a few people who are looking for it myself, and they are looking for graded copies of 9.5 or higher, and they want it at a really decent price, so those all don't fit together very well. But it doesn't stop players from going out there, getting heavily played copies, and getting themselves even copies. I hate to say this, but yes, even the Championship Edition decks, there's been quite a few sales, but that doesn't count for this video. These are actual copies, okay? Not the ones from the Championship. Now this thing's a 1/2 creature for 3. It says reveal any number of artifact cards in your hand. Add 2 colorless mana to your mana pool for each artifact revealed this way. That's a really powerful ability when you have a strong artifact deck, or you got a way of pumping a lot of crazy things out. Great card, and actually for $125, pretty reasonably priced. Now the insanity begins. Welcome to level 2. This thing is Gaia's Cradle. 103 sales this week. That's $84,000. Okay? This thing went nuts this week. And the thing is, it's not showing up just on things like TCG Player, which had reasonable copies sold, but a whole bunch of stores reported to me that they sold play sets of 4, 2, 1. A lot of people trading in store credit, trading in cards from Thunder Junction, from Dominaria. People trading in modern stuff, commander playable stuff, to get this legendary land, to the point where stores are kind of like, what's going on? I don't know, but I'm telling you, people are buying the card right now, and that's what I'm reporting to all of you. It doesn't mean it's everywhere at the same time, but there's enough copies moving that is a significant amount to go off the market in a single week. So, way to go, Gaia's Cradle. Kind of insane. I'm glad I have my 1 copy, because that is an expensive card. And if it ever rebounds, it's going to be a lot worse for people. Didgeridoo! That's right, guys. Our number 3 card is Didgeridoo, and it's coming to us from Homelands. 112 sales. But guess what? That's only $1,000. It's not a big ticket item. So the Didgeridoo is a single casting cost artifact, but there's a lot of people wondering about Bloomborough and wondering what's going to come down the pipeline. That also has people still buying Deranged Hermit, but it didn't make the list this week, okay? So Deranged Hermit may not be here, but there's still significant sales happening that I'm going to mention it to you as an offhanded remark. But the Didgeridoo here is something different than the Deranged Hermit, because as a single casting cost artifact, this thing says you can pay 3 and take a Minotaur from your hand, put it directly onto the battlefield as though it were just summoned. Think about the amazing Minotaurs out there. The Minotaurs, whatever you want to say. Imagine those creatures coming at you when they build bigger, badder creatures. Getting this card for $5 now is going to seem like a steal if it ever becomes a big tribal thing. So just spend $20, get your 4 copies, and call it a day. Now, our number 2 card this week is the Conchorn. I did mention it this week in a video discussing the abilities of the card and the benefits of having a few copies. This thing jumped up to 123 sales this week, or a total sales volume of only $581.25. Not an expensive card from Fallen Empires, but a highly utilized card in a lot of different formats, and it offers some unique abilities. Remember, it's a 2 generic artifact that says 1, tap and sacrifice the Conchorn. Draw 2 cards, then put 1 card from your hand back on top of your library. This is a brainstorm that can be fit into any deck. It can be fit into any deck at any time because it's basically free in the sense it doesn't need a color wheel of sphere of influence to get things going. I don't need black, blue, white. I can make a card draw in any deck because it's a generic artifact. Old school artifacts rock, but it's not the number 1 card. No. Reparations is an example of what happens when a content creator of any type mentions a card and causes an effect on the market, a FOMO effect. Reparations had 526 sales. That's $16,309, and this is already after that said person, Wubby, made that comment on his stream, and now you have the card still selling. We have hundreds of sales, almost 1,000 sales in the last 2 weeks of this particular card. And a lot of people made a lot of money. It's not that this card is good or bad or however somebody wants to take the card, culturally appropriate, whatever. The fact is, this happened because somebody made a comment that affected the entire market. It shows how easily things can be manipulated to look a certain way, and how a card with basically no gameplay nowadays can see significant sales and cause an entire market turn, as in the value of the card spikes up to unheard of levels. Now, what do you think is going to happen to Reparations now that it's had this significant number of copies leave the market? 412 last week. I think we had, 526 this week, maybe plus by the time this video goes live. Those types of numbers, 1,000 copies get sold from Mirage of a particular card. Whether a different content creator mentioned it, or some player takes an interest in it, or a deck gets designed that uses a card, the buyout still happened. For whatever reasons or intentions, the buyout happened. So now what happens to that card? Well, for some players, they are selling into this open market. They are looking at the cost of that card. Maybe they bought it for $3 a few weeks ago, and they say, yeah, I'll buy it for $3. I wanted to own a copy for years. And now they see it's going for 30. You know they're going to sell it into that market. And when you're selling into a market like this that is inflated and FOMO'd up because of a content creator or some kind of after effect on the market from a deck getting created, whatever the reason may be, the after effect is still going to be real. The card will go up in value. There won't be enough buyers to sustain it or to have it go higher, so the card has to deflate. It has to go down in value. Now, a lot of players are going to make a lot of money selling into the rising market, but it is probably going to fall in price a lot harder than people realize, because a lot of people will flood this card back onto the market either by looking for copies they may own, and they're just going to put them up there hoping somebody else is going to buy it, and other players still will because they'll buy it on the falling knife, seeing, oh, it's not $30, this person's got it for 20. Oh, it's only 15. But it used to be 3. And when you see a card that used to be 3 just a few weeks ago, and now you see the price go up like this, that just lends to a whole separate issue of what happens with market manipulation. No matter how it happened or why it happened, the card spikes, but it can't stay up, so it's going to fall back down. And when it falls back down, anyone who desired the card can then decide to buy that card. But everyone in between, the buyers and the sellers, the buyers are buying at a higher point right now, and the sellers are selling at a higher point, and they're making a lot of money. And I know a few people out there who bought copies last year when I mentioned it was like $1.50 or something, and now they're selling into this market at around that $20 to $25 mark. They were catching on the rise up. A lot of money gets made, just like we saw with Soldevi Digger earlier in the year with those Doctor Who decks. Money gets made fast, people get out, and then when the knife falls and the price goes all the way back down about 6 months from now, after that 6-month period's over, that's when some of those players will actually go back and buy the cards again. They will rebuy them at the lower value because they've already made their money. They've banked it and used it for something else. Interesting times. Anyway, thanks a lot for hanging out with me on the channel today. Thanks for stopping by the top 10 hottest selling cards on the reserve list. I look forward to seeing you all on my live stream, 6:30 Eastern Standard Time, where we will continue this conversation. Thanks again, guys. Have a great day today. Hey guys, a big shout out, a thank you to the fantastic patrons we have here on the channel. Because of all these patrons, all these YouTube membership members, the viewers of this channel, supporting each and every day, giving the videos thumbs up, watching everything, we have a really good time here on the channel, and we get to do daily uploaded content. So thanks again for being part of the team, part of Team Moxman, and I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow with, of course, another video. Have a great day. It really does make you wonder. You can't help it. Welcome back, guys. You're here at the Ramble Jamble. You've made it to the after party. You have the ticket, and you are invited to step backstage. Because these types of deals, where somebody gets really excited and buys a whack load of copies for whatever reason, is an interesting takeaway. This doesn't directly benefit the Wubby guy. He just said it was a card and people caught on board. Okay? But the effect what happened to all those sellers, they made a lot of money. People who sold their cards made a lot of money. The people buying got something they wanted at a price they thought was fair to join the party. They wanted to be part of something, so they dive in. Not looking at the cause and effect of what they're doing or the aftermarket effects. Now, if I go out there right now and I have $3,000 US, I can clear the market on eBay, TCG Player, Card Kingdom, a few other places, I could take away every available copy of Soldevi Excavations, and that will cause the market to surge up. And it'll probably be a YouTube video made by somebody a lot bigger than me saying, look at what happened, this is crazy. But the card's not going to stay there. It still has to have desirability, it has to have playability. Somebody has to want to get that card. They have to believe, since it's a non-producing asset, you have to believe it's better than it is. You have to find the reasons to own that card and where it's going to be unified into a deck or in some greater effect. And that's not likely to happen. As much as I want it to happen for certain cards, it's a picky thing. You have to see it being utilized, and a lot of people are going to find it too slow for today's environment of Magic the Gathering, and that's interesting. But you never know what's going to happen, and that's just what we saw today. We don't know what's going to happen. Nobody's got a crystal ball looking into the future. But there are some people who are available who can shape the market by making certain comments. And if they own large positions of a card, they definitely can dump it. I've been accused of it many times myself. I think it's hilarious that people think I own that many copies of anything other than maybe Mox Amber. But other than that, which I have not sold anything after I sold before the Brothers War came out, I have no intention of selling them. It's a reprintable card. It'll probably go down in value, but the challenge was there. And that's what some people will take away. They want the challenge of collecting as many copies as they can of a certain card on the reserve list that's cheap, that's affordable, that they can say, I own 1,000 copies of that. I have 10,000 copies. I did a run at the Dark. I own a large position of Dark cards. Now, this set has 64 million cards created, so I don't have anywhere near what the actual market contains, but for an individual, I consider myself to have a large position of cards now. And that's what somebody likes to do sometimes, and that's what happens on markets like this. People don't need a reason to justify to themselves why they buy a card other than the reason they like it. Remember that. If I decide tomorrow to buy Soldevi, nothing is going to stop me if I really wanted to do it. It's an open market. I can buy all the copies I want, and people are left to wonder why it happened. Not everyone gets a reason, and I find that fascinating. Have a great one, guys. Soldevi.